Hey guys, how you doing? It's Vince. Wanted to do a video on a few things. First and foremost, got a box from Scott Waters today, so I'm going to show those off. One of them's playing in the background right now. It's Michael Schenker, Built to Destroy. One I didn't have. There's that. Sounds good so far, but I've only got into a few songs, but I wasn't worried because I like them anyway. So that's cool. And then the second one is one I probably would never have gotten if it weren't for him and a few other people who showed it. I'm curious to see what this sounds like as the Shout album. It's apparently the second one, and it won't be long, I guess is the title. And I guess this is an English copy. And it's on Music for Nations label, and here's the label right there. I've actually never seen that particular label before. That's supposed to be really good mid to late 80s melodic metal, so I'm looking forward to that one for sure. So thank you very much, Scott. I really appreciate it. I've been pretty much living at Goodwill lately because of our financial situation, so most of what I've been buying is kind of in the same vein. Not much rock, so it's cool to get some new rock, and I really appreciate that. So thank you again, Scott. Speaking of Goodwill, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I found recently in the last handful of Goodwill runs I did do. I did find some cool jazz stuff, and so I figured I'll throw that in here. Let's start with this one, Duke Ellington, Newport, 1958 it is. Interesting painting. Here's the back. Live Ellington, featuring Jerry Mulligan on sax. It's Ellington from the late 50s. If you know what his stuff sounds like, that's what it is. It's really intelligent big band music. It's on 6i, and as far as condition goes, for an album this old at Goodwill, this is by far better than most of them that you'll find. It's probably VG. And for an album this old, that Lord knows what it's been through, it's pretty darn good. So I'm pretty happy with that one. It's one I've never seen. I like finding stuff I've never seen before. You know, something I would probably never find anywhere else. The best thing about going to Goodwill is that you're limited on what your choices are. So you're more likely to buy stuff that you might not buy had you gone to a record store where there's thousands and thousands of records. So, you know, you'll weed down and then you'll pick the ones over the top, you know, the best ones that you think, and a lot of this stuff that you might like, you know, gets left aside because you don't have enough money. So that's the one cool thing about places like Goodwill is that, you know, there's only so much stuff you're going to find. More than likely you'll end up buying everything that you find that you like because it's not going to cost that much. Next one's no big deal, but Linda Ronstadt album I didn't have, Silk Purse. This one, more on the countryside. I like her more pop rock stuff better, but I decided I want to collect her 70s albums, and so that includes some of these earlier ones. It's on a mid to late 70s Capitol label, but it's practically brand new, so I picked it up. Next one is a Johnny Rivers album that I didn't have. Meanwhile, back at the Whiskey, I don't think there's any hits on here as far as he's concerned. I mean, he always did covers anyway, but I don't see anything that was big like Maybelline or, you know, Four Sided Town or anything like that. But it's still, it's what it is. It's live Johnny Rivers. He's a good singer. He does good renditions of tunes, and there's always chicks singing along with him in the background, which I don't get. I find that interesting. So, original Imperial Pink, and it's got one of those stupid stickers on it for putting in your record box so you know which number it is. I only ever had a 45 version of that. Never had an album one. Next, jazz from the mid-70s, Maynard Ferguson, Chameleon. I just got my first Maynard Ferguson album several months ago. I was always aware of him because my dad was into jazz, so I kind of got leaned on jazz. And I think he had a couple of his like older 50s albums. So I always knew who he was. I knew that Chase, the trumpet Bill Chase that played with him, went on to form the jazz rock group Chase, so I knew about that connection. But I never had any of his own stuff until several months ago when I got a live album. And it's big band stuff, kind of like Buddy Rich stuff, based on whatever the time period. This is '74, so it's kind of get that blood, sweat, and tearsy kind of thing, but more big bandy. The trumpets are just like the Chase albums; they're really out there and high and all that stuff. So it's really a similarity there, except it's mostly instrumental, and more or less Chase's stuff has vocals in it. So there's the back, and it's just on your regular red Capital or Columbia, so I'm not going to show it. This is a rebuy. I had a version of this, actually a promo, but it's not in that great a shape, and I saw this and it's brand new, and it was in paper too. Written out RIT. So I grabbed that, because like I said, it's brand new. So I'll probably keep them both anyway, because the other one's a promo. Now this one's kind of interesting. This is Ray Brown, the bassist who played with Oscar Peterson. Now, the thing about this album that's kind of interesting is he actually plays cello on this album, and he plucks it like the bass. So basically, this is like standard jazz stuff, but the lead instrument that plays all the melodies, as opposed to a voice or a sax or something like that, is actually the cello. So he plucks it like a bass, so it kind of almost sounds like he's playing high register stand-up bass, but it's actually cello. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, the renditions are fairly regular, so it's not like anything mind-blowing you want to listen to that much. But being that I seldom play full albums anyway, to have as an odd song and mixed in with my stuff, it's kind of interesting and cool to have mixed in. Now, some of my albums I probably wouldn't play the whole thing of anyway, so that gives me more option to get more variety, and because there's lots of stuff, everything in there I like enough to mix into my thing and play a song by in my rotation. And I'm not real picky about songs, so if I come across something that I really hate, I'll just skip it. But for the most part, I'll play pretty much everything. Anyway, so the next one, another 50s piano guy. This is actually from 70s, so it's got some newer songs on it. Earl Garner. Feeling is Believing, so this is from 1970. I have one that's actually a couple years newer than this. It was actually pretty good. Now, I like small jazz band stuff that's newer as opposed to the orchestrated stuff. The older orchestrated stuff, some of it I do like, but as you get more newer and newer, some of the stuff gets really cheesy. But when it's stripped down to a basic band, it's not so cheesy so much. And I like his playing styles. It's kind of unique, and it's not real kind of, some of these guys actually sound like kind of Liberace kind of thing. Really, schmaltzy. And this guy's kind of hip in the style that he's playing, even if he doesn't do the hippest tunes. The way he does them kind of makes it interesting. So there's the back, and it's on this Mercury. Next one's real generic, so I'm just going to show it real quick, but it's Earth, Wind & Fire, Touch the World. It's one of the newer ones I didn't have. It's nothing spectacular. There was one or two songs that were semi-hits. Nothing like their big ones. But that was kind of a whole filler. Alright, next one's Diana Ross and Temptations. Now, usually when I come across Motown albums, they're usually beat to hell, or pretty beat to hell. I picked up a few that were in good enough shape. I kind of check them and see what the scratches are like, and sometimes if you clean them up, they still play halfway decent. This one's actually pretty clean for an original from '68, so I was kind of happy to find this. That's got a gatefold, it's got a whole bunch of pitching in there. And there's back. Some of the stuff on here is a little bit on the schmaltzy side, so like I said, it's not one I'd want to sit and play through all the way through that much. But it's mixed it in Motown tunes. I like doing that. So Motown was always a singles label anyway until the 70s. Next one's another jazz album that I've never seen before. Charles Lloyd, Nirvana. He's a sax player. I didn't know much about him, but apparently he was around in the 50s, 60s. And one side has him with Chico Hamilton, and then one side with his quintet. But the styles vary on different tracks, so it's not like kind of straight anything. You know, they vary. Some songs are a little freer, some are a little less jazzy, some are straight jazz. It all depends. So it's kind of it's good for variety. Next one I'd never seen before, and barely even knew who this guy was. And this is I believe an original from early '60s. It's Pete Jolly Trio, and I like piano jazz trios. I like more stripped down jazz more than the orchestrated stuff. The orchestrated stuff, it depends on the stuff. With most jazz trios and like quartets and maybe quintets, I tend to like most of them. So there's he is right there. And there's the back cover. Now this is on an interesting label I've never seen before that's distributed by MGM. It's called Ava. And for anybody who's never seen an Ava label, there you go. I've never seen that one before. That was kind of cool. But this is also in at least VG condition. These jazz albums that I found, for some reason, I mean, usually jazz albums are pretty beat, especially in Goodwills. But these were VG or VG Plus, each one that I'm showing you right now. So it's pretty rare that I found rare ones. I mean, to find them in good shape like that is pretty cool. Alright, next one I'm going to do Sonny Rollins and the Big Brass. Metro Jazz, which I believe is an offshoot of MGM as well. This one's one side is him and a lot of brass, big brass section, and then the other side is kind of interesting. It's actually a sax trio, just him, bass and drums. Usually I don't like trios or quartets that don't include a guitar or piano because I like to have an instrument in there that can play actual chords. But for variety's sake, it's kind of cool to hear a song, you know, that's all mono instruments from time to time. So that's kind of interesting. And the other side's pretty straight jazz. There's a label. I'd also never seen that one before. And I believe this is an original. It's from the, I think, late 50s. And the last one I got in this stack, this is interesting. It says it's Vince Guaraldi, and then it says the Frank Rosalindo Quintet. Now the interesting thing is Vince Guaraldi, who, by the way, for you who aren't jazz people, is the guy who did all the music for the Peanut Show, the jazz music. He was actually the guy who did that stuff. That's what he was most well known for. But he also made a lot of albums in the 50s and 60s on Fantasy Records, the same label that CCR was on. It was actually a jazz label first, actually. So this album is kind of interesting because Vince isn't like the main guy. It's actually this guy right here. It's actually his quintet, and Vince plays a minor part in the whole process. And it's pretty straight jazz, so it's decent stuff. But I looked it up on eBay and found older copies and found some that actually just had that without his name on it. So I'm thinking that this is Frank and not Vince, and that this came out later after Vince started getting known in the 60s. So obviously this is a reissue of some kind. But considering I'd never seen it before and it was in really good shape, once again VG Plus, and there's the label. I picked it up anyway, and it is a decent jazz album, so I'm glad I got it. All right, now I'm going to go through some of my sets real quick. Show you some of the records that are in this particular set that I'm doing right now. First I'm going to start with my version of Fresh Cream. Now this one is actually a Japanese copy. If you're watching Robert Z, you can stop drooling now. Unfortunately, I didn't get an OB with this. I bought this used and I didn't have an OB. But it does have the paper insert on the lyrics on that side. And it's actually on RSO, so it's like got to be from the 70s. And it's the English version, so it's got 12 songs on it, as opposed to the American one that has 10. And then the American one, which I still have a copy of, because on the American one, the song I Feel Free is on there. But it's not on this one. So I have an American copy in there as well. That's, I believe, an OG. It's not in great shape, but I only use it for one song because the rest of them are all on here anyway. Next one, Purple Book of Talisman, their second album. I'm sure people have seen this before. This is an original on Tetragrammaton. Now, for some reason, I don't know if it's my copy or not, it's the only one I've ever had. The recording, when you play it back, is really tinny sounding. Now, I used to have Shades of Deep Purple, the first one on Tetragrammaton, a long time ago. I bought it as a budget when I was a kid. And I don't have it anymore. I have a Harvest reissue that sounds a lot better, but I don't remember if that one sounded tinny like that one or not. This one, I'll probably try and find a newer version of it. I may keep this if I don't get a Tetragrammaton, so I've got both versions. The third album I've actually got a Harvest and a Tetragrammaton. This is Les Dudek. It's called Say No More. Kind of in the Allman Brothers camp. Actually played as a youngster on a few of their albums. But a really good singer, really good guitar player in that Allman's vein. Kind of a southern rock with a little soul and blues mixed in. He put out 4 or 5 solo albums, and then he did a band with 3 other guys that's really good, that I also have. So, there's that. Little hop there to the Everly Brothers, one of my older rock albums. I picked this up on eBay last year, and it's actually in really good shape. This is their first, I believe, Warner Brothers record after they switched in '60. And this actually includes the original version of Love Hurts, the song that Nazareth did, which is kind of interesting. And it also has the hit Kathy's Clown. That was a pretty big hit. Just to show it's gold Warner Brothers. Next one, Scott's shown before, so I think you recognize this is Flash, the guy from original guitar player from Yes. And this is my copy, Gabe. Actually, it goes this way. And you know, progressive stuff, good album. The next one I'm kind of dig. This is a group called Freedom. Now, Freedom was initially a band that broke away from the original version of Procol Harum. Guys in this band actually performed on the Whiter Shade of Pale single, and then the band was pretty much broken up and then reformed again afterwards. I believe that was the only appearance that they made. 2 of the 3 guys, I believe, were on that album, or on that single. They formed a band afterward called Freedom. This is actually their second album, their first U.S. album, just called Freedom. I have their first album. It's actually one of those Actual albums. And I've had it forever. I actually got it from my cousin. He gave it to me, and it's the only Actual I've ever found. So this one's actually in ABC. The regular one. This should be an OG. Pretty sure it's from '70. But good bluesy hard rock, good vocals. Next one's a group called Glass Moon that I kind of one I always saw in the wild but never bought. Actually, let me just put the music back on. Hold on a second. That's better. I'm only talking behind silence. Alright, so I was saying Glass Moon. This is a promo of their second album, Growing in the Dark. Kind of a pop rock, not really A to R, maybe a little bit on the new wavy side. But good songs, good vocals. The first album, they actually did a cover of Salisbury Hill that's really good. I believe they're from Florida because the original version of this label, which I'll show you, Radio Records, I have an original copy of that. And it was a private label, and it was on radio. And the address was in Florida, so I don't know if the band was from Florida. But this is the Warner Brothers version of it. The label's pretty much the same as the original, but this is actually pretty good. I believe they had a minor hit off one of the 2 albums. I'm not sure which one it is because I don't remember it initially. But they made one more after that I also have. It's on NCA. Next album, Gypsy, one of my favorite early 70s bands. Their first album is like one of my favorite first albums from the 70s. It's actually one of those double albums that several bands made as their debut album back in the early 70s. And this is their first on RCA. This one is a little bit less progressive-y, more song-oriented, but the songs are really good and not quite that commercial yet. So there's some good rock tunes mixed in with some more poppy and soulful kind of stuff. There's the cover, it's kind of cool. And then it's got one of those wallet kind of things in the middle. There's the picture and the lyrics. And then this is one of the ones I got in Canada, so it's got a vinyl museum thingy on it. But it actually is a Canadian copy, but it's on the orange RCA label. Next group is a country rock band called Hartsfield. Now this is a band I discovered back in the mid-70s. I got a copy of their 4th album that was on Columbia. Back when my dad had an employee who had a best friend who was working for Columbia Records and used to get all the promos, and he would bring a bunch in. One of the albums that he brought in was Collector's Item, their 4th album, so I got to know them through that. Down the line, discovered that they made 3 albums on Mercury before that album, and then eventually found them all. And this is their 2nd one. This one's a little more on the countryside than the newer 2. Actually, like their 3rd and 4th one the best, but this has some good tunes on it. It's on the regular Mercury. So I believe there's still a version of Hartsfield kicking around, even though a few of the members are dead. They did make some CDs in the 90s and 2000s, so there probably is playing regionally from wherever they're from. I'm not sure where they're from exactly. Next one, Ian Hunter, album from 83. Yep, 83. I actually remember a few videos from this album on MTV. All the good ones are taken. I believe that was one of the videos. But this is a good, solid Ian Hunter hard rock album. You know, what you would expect, any of the solo stuff that you know. There's the back. And sleeve with the lyrics, and then the usual Columbia. I'll do a couple more before this gets too long. JoJo Gunn, another album I've had for a long time. This is actually kind of an offshoot of the group Spirit. The group that did I Got a Line on You from the 60s. Jay Ferguson, oops, there he is. Jay Ferguson. And who else? Oh, he's not on this album, never mind. The bass player was on the first album. He's not on the second one. Matthew Andes was the brother of the bass player from Spirit. He's in here. Anyway, this is really good early 70s hardish rock. Not like hard rock like Sabbath or anything, but you know, more kind of on the partyish side of hard rock. But Jay Ferguson, you might remember from the song Thunder Island in the late 70s. He had a big hit with that. That was his biggest solo hit. And this one's on the first version of Asylum, which is kind of cool. So this is from 73. And then interestingly enough too, when I bought this used, somebody had taped reviews of the album on the inner sleeve. The inner sleeve was just black. So that was kind of cool. Somebody just did a video on weird things that they found in their album covers, so that would be one of them for me. Next one is Kingfish. Now, I'm not a big Dead fan, but I like Bob Weir to a degree. I like some of the stuff he's did. I used to have a Bobby and the Midnights album that I like that I'll probably buy again. This is a group that he was joined before that. I believe they were already a band that he just played with in between Grateful Dead stuff. This is their second album. It's actually a live one. The cover's kind of worn out, but there's some live pics in there. This is pretty good. I mean, it's a livelier to me than the Dead are, and that was my problem with the Dead, is that they always seem kind of like they were half asleep when they're playing. That's just how I feel about them. I've heard some stuff that was more upbeat, but a lot of the times it's just kind of, you know, I like to have a little more oomph in my stuff that I listen to. These guys have a little more. There's much more live pictures. And this is a earlier version of Jet Records that I have a few on. It's kind of different than the blue one. So I kind of dig that one. And this is from 77. Alright, let me see. Oh, I'm going to show this one because it's funny, and then I'll be done on this video. This is Eric Martin. This is the singer from Mr. Big. He was solo before that for most of the 80s. This is, I believe, his last solo album before Mr. Big. It came out in 87. Check out that funky-ass razor-cut mullet of his. It's kind of scary, huh? And this is your basic pop rock, mid-80s fare. I have it just to have it. And like I said, I don't play full albums that much anyway, so throw in a song by him. I like his voice, so I mean, that's good. Throw in a song for variety. Works just fine for me. Okay, so I showed you a bunch of stuff I'm playing, some stuff I got, stuff from Scott. Thank you again, buddy. And it's 25 minutes. It's long enough for me. Take care, everybody. I hope everybody's doing good, and see you around.